Okay, welcome to our latest webinar, our latest TaxLink webinar. Today we're looking at citizenship by investment programs. It should be a good, I guess, primer on what's trending in the world of CBI and the different programs available to high net worth individuals out there. So let me get some admin issues before starting. I will be moderating today, so I'm not going to introduce myself. I'm the content manager for TaxLink. That's about all you need to know. Anyway, the admin issues. We are recording this discussion. We're going to have an audio recording available probably next week at some point. And also we're going to have a transcript of this event. The transcript will take us a bit longer, but we'll share it with all of our members and with everyone in our network. Also, for those of you who have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists, just feel free to use the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can send your questions to me, the moderator, and I will make sure to try to incorporate them into the discussion. We have a lot of questions that have already been submitted, so I'm not sure we'll be able to incorporate them, but if I see that throughout the flow of the conversation we can include them somewhere, I will do so. Also, keep in mind that Laszlo has to leave us 15 minutes early. He has another obligation. So around 45 minutes from now, he's going to say goodbye, and that will leave the three remaining panelists. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with Vasiliki. Vasiliki.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vasiliki, and I'm a corporate lawyer at Meridian Trust in Cyprus. I'm involved in the procedures for obtainment of the Cyprus citizenship by investment. I advise clients regarding the procedures and the investment options available in Cyprus, and also the paperwork and all the required documents needed for the CBI.
Thank you, Vasiliki. Bruno, how about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Bruno. I'm the Chief Executive of the Investment Migration Council. We are the worldwide association for investor migration and investments. We were formed in 2014 by a number of experts to bring together the foremost stakeholders and to provide the industry a voice. We set the standards on a global level, and we interact with other professional associations, governments, and international organizations in relation to investment.
Excellent. Thank you, Bruno. Laszlo, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laszlo. I'm the Managing Director of Discus Holdings Limited, which is offering multi-jurisdictional services via residence and citizenship. So we are offering participation in basically all the residency and citizenship by investment programs. I've been doing it for nearly 25 years now, and currently it is getting an even interesting market now. So I'm quite happy to be related to this business.
Excellent. Finally, Andres.
Hi everyone, my name is Andres. I work as the Global Business Development Manager of CS Global Partners, where basically we advise to high net worth individuals, super high net worth individuals in the citizenship and residence by investment strategies. And as everyone here, very happy to share with Vasiliki, Laszlo, and Bruno this webinar. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, so with that, let's get started with our pretty long list of questions here. So to get us started, how does citizenship by investment differ from residence by investment, and why is CBI a booming industry? How about Laszlo? You want to take a first crack at that one?
Thanks a lot. First of all, obviously, the meaning of residency and citizenship means quite different. Citizenship attachment is much, much stronger than a residency one. Citizenship means that you are attached to a country which either because you were born there, because you were nationalized, or you chose that country to be part of it. Residency is usually not as strong as the citizenship, because you could choose many places to go in the world. You could decide where to reside. You could change it anytime. Citizenship is obviously much harder to change, and that's why the attachment is much stronger for citizenship.
Okay. How about the portion about why is it a booming industry? You wanna comment on that, Bruno? Let's go with Bruno.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
Why is CBI a booming industry at this stage?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the industry has been growing tremendously since really the advent of the financial crisis post 2008, really. And I think there's probably two reasons for this, really. The first is that many economies, particularly the small states, were desperately looking for new sources of foreign direct investment to replace the older reality of the new economy, really. So that gave it a major boost. And secondly, and probably one area that a lot of people don't talk about maybe, is the number of service providers has increased exponentially in the past 5 to 6 years. And that actually, it creates, a strong marketing push on behalf of the agents and all these other service providers, which brings to the attention of potential clients that there is this industry available. So I think those are two areas as to why the industry, has grown.
Excellent. Andres, would you like to comment on that, or Laszlo on?
Well, basically, on following what Bruno was saying, it is a booming industry. The situation worldwide, political problems. We've seen it obviously with the Brexit. We've seen it with Trump. We've seen it with obviously the refugee crisis. People are looking for flexibility. People are looking for a second policy. The CBI market gives a good, strong, and a very interesting solution for these people. So as Bruno was saying, it is a booming industry, and it's very important that at the same time it is well regulated.
So if I can add something, the majority of people we are talking about really is considering the second citizenship and residency as a kind of an insurance policy against something going wrong, and especially what has been happening in the world since the financial crisis, just politically, economically, and so on, definitely shows that people have to think about their future, and unfortunately, tied to one country sometimes creates huge troubles for them. Just think about Syria and all the other countries. That is one very big reason why this business is booming now, and there are so many inquiries, and basically the demand is definitely there.
Vasiliki? Anything
Yes, I would like to add that the booming in the CBI lately is also because of the instability of the wars and the East problem, and where individual people are looking for countries where there is stability and top universities and for their families, and more options about education and investment and for their future as well.
Excellent. I think that also we just covered the second question that we had, was basically who is seeking second citizenship and what are their key motivations. I think we pretty much covered, or at least touched upon most of those points. So let's jump into, I guess, the crux of the matter. And this is a very interesting question. Given that more and more jurisdictions are offering citizenship through investment programs, how should investors decide which jurisdictions suit them? I mean, how do these investors, these high net worth individuals, choose among the, let's say, 12 programs that are available to them? Andres, do you want to take a first shot at that one?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. At the end of the day, I think that the most important role for us, it is the first thing: listen, understanding which is the applicant, the client's concerns, understanding which are their goals, if there is any particular, understanding if has a family, not has a family, from that moment, from that point of view, saying, okay, where we should look at. It is not the same if the client wants just basically to acquire residence in Europe rather than he wants to get a second passport for as a flexibility tool, or wants to reside in Europe and it has to have full European rights as a European citizen. So for me and for us, the first key, it is understanding which are those goals, which are those concerns, and then based on that, we'll be able to look at any of the citizenship and residence solutions that are in the market, like the Caribbean, like Europe, citizenships like Cyprus, we have Vasiliki, Malta, UK residence programs, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the most important thing for us, because at the end of the day, we don't want to advise. We want to give the right and correct advice. We don't want to give a client that wants a residence, we don't want to give a Caribbean passport and vice versa.
Okay, Laszlo, any comments on that?
Yes, I totally agree that motivation of the client or why they are thinking about something is definitely the most important thing. And then we could continue the conversation about what other aspects they are interested in, whether they are, let's say, a believer of financial assets or believer of properties, so that we could further show them certain possibilities existing. But definitely is the main motivation, which should be the governing force of what we say and what we try to advise them. Because if you could try to advise something which is against their feelings, but probably you will not be successful. So it's better to find out exactly what they want.
Bruno, Vasiliki, anything to add on to how to help high net worth individuals pick the program, or like, you know?
I totally agree. Different jurisdictions offer different package, let's say, and it depends on the intention of the client and the investment options, what each jurisdiction has to offer to the client. There are no specific criteria.
Yeah, I mean, I concur with everything that my industry colleagues have said. I'll add that, you know, really for your viewers, that they need to know that there are about 90 various programs which offer either citizenship or residency, which eventually leads to citizenship, and that is a lot of options available to people. So for agents or client advisors to, you know, fully understand two things. First is the motivation of their clients. Why exactly do they need a residency or a second citizenship? And then, you know, understanding the pitfalls and, well, the advantages, disadvantages of each of these programs, and kind of sitting down and putting that together. There isn't an algorithm, if you like, you know, which you tap in the numbers and then you get a result. It is very much based on feeling as well, as Laszlo said. You do need to have, you know, a very deep understanding of your client's motivations and to match that with the right solution for them.
Right, excellent. Okay, let's move on with the questions. Let's switch gears a little bit right now, and let's talk about actually due diligence and like maintaining the high standards within the CBI industry. I think this is a question that Bruno had mentioned in his interview with us earlier this month. So what is required to keep high standards within the CBI industry? Bruno, do you want to take a first crack at that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I answer that, and I think, you know, I should have mentioned it before, I'd like to, you know, sort of provide a little bit of a mention, that our colleagues in the Caribbean who have, you know, there are a number of countries in the Caribbean there are 5 countries that have citizenship programs, and at the moment they're undergoing a very difficult time because they were firstly hit by Hurricane Irma, and then they were hit, you know, just, you know, yesterday and today by Hurricane Maria. You know, watching CNN, and Puerto Rico is, you know, is absolutely bashed. Antigua has had a bashing. Barbuda, Dominica. So our thoughts and prayers go to our colleagues in that area of the world. May they quickly recover from this terrible incident. But yeah, in answer to your to the question which is often put to us, and of course it's really very, very interesting. I think we can break this down into 4 distinctive areas. I mean, for us, firstly, we feel that it is evident that there is very little coordinated effort to share information, and there are neither many reliable repositories for data and analysis that actually agents or investors can access, and then governments can make use of when creating their own programs. So we're working very hard to bring quality data to the industry. And then secondly, and as I'm sure you know, and I've mentioned, there are so many different countries offering programs, and that's seen a major increase in the past few years. Of course, Cyprus has its own very respectable program, which was recently strengthened, but there are of course many more EU member states in the process of either reworking their current programs or creating new ones, making them more attractive for investors. So it's a growing business. It's very interesting to small states where these large inflows can be significant in terms of the economic and fiscal impact that they have. So there needs to be a better coordination within the industry for everybody to benefit. And then thirdly, there are a number of growing industry participants, which means increasing competition between service providers and, of course, between countries. And this is generally good news for consumers, but it also raises a number of questions, such as, can my advisor be trusted? Is my advisor competent? And is the proposed country safe and offering long-term opportunities for me and my family? And then, finally, the fourth and perhaps which is the most significant concern is the perception issues of the industry due to the rogue players within the industry. And those are the ones who generally act in unethical ways. They damage not only the industry, but they also damage specific programs through bad practice. And here you can think of Portugal's Golden Visa program. There was a scandal not so long ago. And of course, with this, the result is a mountain of reputation repair work generally left for government to do. So it's particularly hazardous for the smaller economies that really rely on FDI receipts from economic citizenship programs. So of course, then the advantages of well-run, transparent programs and quality practitioners outweigh the other options by far, and it's, in our view, more sustainable. This becomes more sustainable in the longer term.
Excellent. Andres, would you like to chip in a thought or two on maintaining high standards within the industry?
Indeed, I mean, I concur with Bruno. I think that maintaining the high standards in the industry in terms of obviously the agents, as Bruno was saying, they are, increasing number of agents, understanding who not are the best, but are the qualified right ones to assess each client's applications. It is extremely important. The perception in the market it is a key thing. Just mentioned with Portugal and obviously the Caribbean countries. Thank you very much for your words, Bruno. It's been a tough time. They are recovering quite good and fast. It's been just a couple of days ago. The damage has been assessed, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to recover quite fast as well. The Caribbean countries, it is true that those sharing of information and so on, it is starting to be basically enhanced between the countries, but at the same time, the duty of the Caribbean countries, it is very strong because at the end of the day, the presence of these applicants, it is not required. So the duty paramount importance for each of these Caribbean programs. So yeah, I mean, I agree on that point as well.
Laszlo, any comments on standards?
When we talk about standards, and I think I totally agree with the two gentlemen, one very important aspect is, which might sound a little bit controversial, but let us not fool ourselves. Quite a lot of criminals looking for solutions. And when a country really has a strong due diligence procedure, not just using the accessible databases which can be accessed by basically by any country, but really paying more effort to really to screen the person and to try to find out really whether that is a genuine good business people or just a common criminal or a crook. Therefore, the due diligence procedure should be an integral part of any such citizenship programs. Residency, not that much, but otherwise, it is really something with which, with the help of the due diligence, it is much easier to avoid any bad publicity by one bad guy coming into the system and creating very huge adverse publicity all over the world, because news are flowing around. So all in all, that is what we have to emphasize all the time, and I think we totally agree that the due diligence procedure is a must and is a must and is a must. Really, the clients are usually paying for it in the citizenship programs, but I think it's a very good investment for both parties to do it, to run it through, so then from that point everybody would be quite clear of talking to clean people and offering them certain possibilities.
Excellent. Actually, my next question was on due diligence, so I'm glad you brought it up, Laszlo. So any other comments, Vasiliki, maybe about due diligence? Then I'll ask Bruno and Andres.
I totally agree. Due diligence is the key indicator for the overall performance for each citizenship scheme.
Okay, Bruno.
Yeah, can I just comment? I mean, if we're talking about standards within the industry, as the industry's non-profit body, we have 300 members that are located in over 45 different countries. So quality is a really big part of what we do. And in this respect, our advisory committee has created a very solid code of ethics and professional conduct, which clearly defines the expectations and the basic standards and behavior for everyone in the industry.
We can't hear you. It's cutting off.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that better? Okay. So what that will do, our code of ethics and professional conduct, is putting this industry on par with other trusted professions that have such codes, like law and accountancy. Now, the other thing we've done is we've partnered with Microsoft and KPMG Advisory, and we're laying the foundation for what is, in essence, an intelligent repository of industry facts, data, and records, which we hope will better help to service our community of members and the various governments that we speak to on a regular basis, who are either already have a program or they are planning a program to put into place.
Excellent. Andres, anything to add to due diligence or standards?
No, what we have been covering, I totally concur with Bruno and the comments of Laszlo and Vasiliki.
Okay, excellent. I'll go back now to something that Laszlo had mentioned. He was talking about how it's a mutually beneficial relationship between the providers and the actual countries. And let's look at how the countries benefit. So how do CBI programs contribute to the countries offering their citizenship? What sort of benefits do these countries offering CBI programs receive from these sales of citizenship? Laszlo, you want to take a first crack at that?
Yes, especially in the case of the Caribbean jurisdiction. Especially in the case of,
yes. Yeah, it's just basically I had to move. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Laszlo.
Okay. So especially in the case of the Caribbean, 5 Caribbean countries, I think that it's really one of the most important, if not the most important, economic activity which would generate enough GDP for them to survive if something bad happens. So all in all, it is a must for them, and there is always a question what would happen if those countries would really stop offering this kind of services. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the amounts compared to the GDP, compared to the sizes of those countries, then those citizenship programs are really, really very important for them. So all in all, that is why there is a kind of a balance. They have to be more careful of what they accept, because money is not just everything. Bad publicity would ruin the business and reputation of the country, and so on and so on. Maybe some of you has heard about the diplomatic appointments where somebody who used it incorrectly threatened the visa-free travel to one of the largest countries in the world. So those countries must be very, very careful to whom they give the citizenship, and also on the other hand, they have to enjoy something as a contribution. So yes, monetary considerations, I think, in the Caribbean are very, very strong to keep up the economic growth.
Vasiliki, what about in the case of Cyprus? I mean, what is Cyprus benefiting from, selling these schemes?
Cyprus, as all of you know, in 2013 we had the economic crisis, and the government decided to apply to give more motivation and relax the requirements for obtaining the Cyprus citizenship. And of course, this contributed a lot to the GDP of Cyprus, and it's directly related with the service factor here in Cyprus, which is considered as the biggest source of income for Cyprus.
Okay. Andres, what about the case in Caribbean programs? I mean, besides what Laszlo has already mentioned, anything you'd like to add in terms of the benefits of these countries?
The benefits, as Laszlo was saying, it is extremely important, because obviously it helps the tourism sector, agriculture, obviously infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And obviously this links, what Laszlo was saying, it links to what Bruno and what we were discussing about the due diligence. Having a very strong due diligence in the Caribbean at the same time helps to avoid those rotten apples, as Laszlo was mentioning before, and to protect the perception of these programs in the market. So it works, the due diligence works as a balance to the influx, to the incoming of money from all the applicants. So yeah, I mean, it obviously has a very, very big play in each particular Caribbean economic finance.
Excellent. Bruno, anything to add to what has been said?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with my three colleagues. I mean, what it is that the macroeconomic impact of these inflows really does then depend on the design of each program. We touched upon Cyprus and the Caribbean, but also what's important is the magnitude of the program and the management of the program. So we do know that, in small states, the large inflows have a significant spillover to other sectors. There isn't a lot of comprehensive data on this, but we know that from mainly in St. Kitts and Dominica, there are suggestions that there is a very sizable benefit to the economy, and that I know was fairly well recorded by an IMF team and a subsequent report in around 2015. But there is also some evidence and some press reports that indicate that there's also substantial inflows in other economies, and I cite Portugal here, where programs with private investment options have a direct real sector impact, particularly in the construction and the real estate sector. And I think that's true also for Cyprus. And then that spillover goes into tourist accommodation, the contributions to the government and the national development funds when spent or invested. So this can have an impact on the real economy.
Excellent. Okay, now shifting gears one more time, let's look at a more practical aspect of the particular CBI programs. This was a question that was again posted on our forum. And is it better to invest in citizenship by purchasing property or investing in a business? Or is it better to donate to the government in the case of some Caribbean programs? I mean, what sort of recommendations would you give high net worth individuals if these were the options? Laszlo, let's go with you.
I think it is quite often a psychological type of question, which is that there are certain people who would like to hold in their hands what they have. For them, a donation is money thrown out, even though if they are financially, let's say, calculating that on a cash flow level, on a possible capital loss, and so on, how much is the equivalent of a donation side of it instead of owning a property. I do not think that the numbers financially are that much different. But if they believe in property and they want a beautiful villa, for example, in Cyprus, then they want a beautiful villa in Cyprus, period. There is not really too much of a sense to argue with them, because this is what they feel, this is where they feel comfortable, and if they satisfy the conditions of a citizenship, then why not? I think I had to learn after a certain time that maybe I just mentioned that there is a donation route which is much cheaper, just make a calculation. Okay, fair enough. I think that is all my duty. Otherwise, it is just a wasted time to convince people that no, a beautiful villa is not a good choice. So at the end, I think that's why I'm saying that it's kind of a psychological thing. Obviously, we have to investigate the financial situation of the client, about net assets, not just because the countries quite often demand this financial information, but otherwise maybe they are just simply overloaded with property, so that is one kind of a diversification, not to enlarge their liabilities in the properties. But otherwise, really, it's up to their feelings whether they want the financial donation route or they want the property investment route. And we have to agree that the Caribbean has a certain advantage by offering beautifully located properties and hotels and so on, because of the magic of the Caribbean, obviously.
Andres, since you have many, I guess you work with many programs in the Caribbean. I mean, what do you see from your clients? Is there a preference for just donating to the government versus investing in property or investing in a business?
Well, I mean, it is. I'm quite in line to what Laszlo was saying at the same time, and this ties up with what I was saying at the beginning of the webinar. It is listen, listen, and listen. There are clients that, I mean, they have the profile of an investor, and as Laszlo was saying, they say, I want my villa of $1, $2, $2.5, $3 million, whatever, in I don't know, in St. Kitts or in Grenada, whatever, and you can put forward, you can explain to them the donation option, but their profile they start because they are thinking that, you know, with the donation they are just basically taking money down the drain. And other clients, they understand that they are investing in a passport, basically, that that's a donation to the government. It is something that, well, it is my investment in my passport, which will give me certain benefits. Depending on that, I mean, we have many clients that go for the fund option, basically because it is hassle-free. The clients, they don't need to, the applicants don't need to worry about in 3-5 years time if selling the property, if not selling the property, if you know, if the property is giving X, Y, or Z returns, or whichever the situation is. And on top of that, they end up at the end of the day having a less cost. And other clients, at the same time, they are not looking at the cost because they see it as an investment. And on top of getting a passport, they get a property in St. Kitts or in whichever island in the Caribbean, Grenada, Dominica, and so on. They pay their government fees as well, and after 3-5 years' time, they get they sell it in the open market and they get their returns. So, I mean, it is true that quite most of the clients they go for the fund option because it is hassle-free, but there is a good portion of clients that they are very much interested in the real estate option for these purposes that I just mentioned.
Okay, and what about Vasiliki in Cyprus? The case of Cyprus, I know they have to buy a residence, and then they get the option of investing. Is it in government bonds or in a business, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, firstly, they have to obtain the residency by buying a residential house, not less than 500,000. In Cyprus, we do not have the donation option, and the option provided is maybe investment in real estate, which in my opinion and from my experience seems to be the most popular investment option. Real estate, either residential or commercial. There are some others that prefer to invest in business or in funds, financial assets. You have the option also to combine the investment options. There is no need to. Hello?
It seems Bruno can't hear us for some reason. It's very strange. Can you hear us, Bruno?
No.
No.
I'll send him a message to log back on. Go ahead, Vasiliki.
Okay, so you may combine the options, and but the choice is on the client, and as Laszlo mentioned before, it depends on the risk. There are people that there are individuals, clients that they do not take any risk. So the different investment options, it depends mainly the risk each investment carry with it. But in Cyprus, real estate investment is the most popular and infrastructure projects.
Excellent. Bruno, anything to add to the different options available? Donations or investing in property, investing in a business, government bonds?
I lost you for about 3 minutes there, so I didn't hear what Andreas said or what Vasiliki said, but I heard a little bit of Laszlo, and I think I'll just close off very quickly on this. I think sometimes though it's actually not there are not many options for clients. In fact, if you look at Malta, there are options for either you purchase property or you lease property. Seemingly the most popular option, and I think that 90% of those clients are going down the route of leasing or renting, if you like. And in Cyprus, there's an opposite scenario. People are just buying property. And I can't remember in Cyprus, actually you have to buy property. And there are actually no options to rent or buy. Vasiliki can probably answer that straight away.
Sorry, I didn't hear about the investment property.
Yeah, just my query was in Cyprus, with the Citizenship by Investment program, is a client bound to buy a property, or do they also have the option to rent?
They are bound to buy a property, residential property. You mean, right? Yeah. No less than 500,000.
Yeah, there you go. So my point was that sometimes, irrespective of what the client wishes, dependent on the program, they don't really have a choice sometimes. They either
no, this is obligatory. Even if they, I'm sorry, even if they invest in business or in funds, it's a requirement to buy a residential property. Excellent.
Okay, I think we've covered that. Let's move on to let's look more specifically at some of the programs right now. How about let's look at in terms of tax or wealth management prospects, what are some of the unique opportunities in the Caribbean? I think Andres, this was a question submitted by Micah, so why don't you take a first crack at that one?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of wealth management and so on in the Caribbean, usually type of clients that are searching for that is also the type of client, the typical client is a family or divorced or 50 years old that is searching to do some succession planning, some tax planning, wealth management, and so on. Usually for these purposes, the clients decide to go through the real estate option. They usually choose the St. Kitts and Nevis program, as it is the platinum standard in the Caribbean. Has really good, obviously, real estate investments where the clients, if they want, they can live there for how long do they want to live there and so on, and also offers a good vast array of structuring opportunities that they can then take far away with their tax and structuring lawyers. So I mean, that's in a scenario that among our, I would say, the vast majority of our high net worth individuals that are looking at that option, they usually are choosing the St. Kitts program for obviously the representations of the platinum brand of the Caribbean, but also, you know, the accelerated process, the succession tax planning, opportunities, structuring, and so on. So it is a mix of element of everything, and the opportunities in the real estate as well.
Excellent. Since Laszlo has to leave us in 5 minutes, let's let him give us a little briefing on the Maltese program, some of the advantages, disadvantages of the CBI program in Malta.
Compared to the other Caribbean jurisdictions, with Cyprus, I would say that one of the most important is that it gives a EU citizenship, and probably that is not a wonder that it costs much more than a Caribbean citizenship. We all know that the advantages of the citizenship is free movement of capital, free work, and so on and so on. So it is quite valuable, and many people are now looking for such solutions. And Malta decided to raise the bar and offers now one of the strongest checks for the applicants, I would say, all over the world, which I think, again, is a good side. Malta also has a very big advantage of offering the same kind of system, non-dom system, like the United Kingdom does. So with all these Brexit coming up questions, then that might be a good place for high net worth individuals to consider putting their tax residency. Also, because of the international exchange of information initiatives, now banks and financial institutions are now sharing information to the home tax authorities. So I think that in the business in the last 2.5 years, tax-related questions are getting more and more important, and that is why, for example, Malta is now quite in a lucky situation to have the same system as in the UK. So anybody who wants to move basically would have the same system, and I would say that it is not a wonder that Cyprus also changed its rules, so it is now trying to offer the same kind of setup because the demand is definitely there. Also, financial services are quite strong in Malta, and again the question of Brexit comes up, that what kind of additional possibilities for private wealth management, for private holding vehicles, mutual funds, and so on, they can be all used as very good solutions if somebody has has come to this decision to move to Malta. There are additional advantages Malta could offer. Briefly.
Excellent. How successful has the Maltese program been in attracting high net worth individuals? Do you have any statistics on that front?
There are no exact published statistics. It takes more than a year. It takes a years of residency to apply for citizenship, and usually granting the citizenship is another 4 or 5 months. So we are talking about a 16-17 month time frame. And when Malta started this, then obviously there was a certain time lag, after which then the application started to come in and started to be approved. But because of the due diligence procedures, yes, many people were just simply frightened or not accepted as a client. So the numbers might not be very, how should I say, big. But I think that is not really a problem, that they are not so big, and they are on a certain level, which is very good for the country. 650,000 euros donation per each main applicant is a considerable income for the Maltese government. So all in all, the program is going very well, and that is the first EU-approved program with the approval of the EU. So yes, it is easily marketable, that is true.
Excellent. Now, I know, Laszlo, you have to go in a bit, so whenever you have to log off, just interrupt us, say goodbye, and thank you very much for having us, and we'll send you the recording and the transcript.
That would be excellent. Thank you. I enjoyed your company, and all the best. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thanks, Laszlo. Now moving to Cyprus, Vasiliki. Just tell us a little bit about the main advantages and disadvantages of the Cypriot CBI program, and how successful has it actually been in attracting high net worth individuals?
Okay. Okay. As you know, Cyprus citizenship is considered as one of the most popular citizenship, especially for Europe, and one of the main advantage of the Cyprus citizenship, of course, is the EU citizenship as in Malta as well, and the fact that it gives 146 countries where you can travel visa-free, except for the visa travel and the free movement of workers and funds among the European countries. I could say that comparing to Malta, as I mentioned earlier, there is no requirement to make the donation to the government, and it's mainly focused on investments. And in Cyprus, we have an extensive use of the English language, and we have a professional service sector, and it would be an idea for a family to be here. There are top high educational schools, and there is no any test or for the language or anything like this. Of course, we have one of the lowest corporate tax in Europe, so making your business here with a 12.5% of corporate tax. There, we have also a very low income tax, which range from 0 to 35 according to your annual income. There's the fact that we are a member of the double tax treaty with over 50 countries, I could say that. And turning to the disadvantage I can think of, I would say we have a little bit of bureaucracy, but to the registry and things, but it seems that things getting better since the last 3 years, and you can obtain your citizenship between 3-4 months, which is a very small margin. And there are some people that believe that a disadvantage of Cyprus is the problem we have that with Turkey, but I think doesn't play any important role regarding the investment and all of this.
Excellent. How successful has the program been? Are there any statistics from the government in terms of applicants and so forth? I know there was a very bad article in The Guardian over the weekend about the Cyprus program.
I read this article, Matteo, and the article was mainly referred to citizenship obtained before the new procedures. As you know, after 2013, we have a very, very transparent procedures regarding due diligence and for compliance purposes, and this is very, very important. And of course, for the specific high net individual, the citizenship was revoked. So this is an example that the procedures are transparent and clear. But I think there are thousands of passports have been obtained through the Cyprus citizenship the last 3 years, and that's make it one of the most popular investment program. I also read the last week, if I'm not right, that there was a ranking about Cyprus citizenship programs, and Cyprus was ranked at 7th and the indicators for this survey was the freedom of movement, was the due diligence, the standard of living, the travel-free score, and the seventh position for Cyprus, in my opinion, it makes Cyprus one of the most popular citizenship for high-net individuals.
Right. I know that report had ranked the Caribbean nations as the highest. I think it was Andres, if you saw it, it was a month ago. I can't remember the source now, which basically the top ranked programs were actual Caribbean programs. On the basis of, I think, 12 criteria or 10 criteria. I can't recall right now. But yeah, okay. A question for Andres now. I had a next question for Bruno, but he had to step out. So for Andres, does CBI in the Caribbean imply tax residents in the region? This is a question also that Mike submitted to our forum recently.
Yeah, that's the fact. I mean, the fact of being granted with Caribbean citizenship in any of the Caribbean programs does not mean that the applicant will be automatically tax resident. As we know, generally speaking, in order to be tax resident of the country, you have to spend more than 180, 183 days in such country, depending obviously on the rules of each particular jurisdiction, and if they're going to collect taxes worldwide in terms of, you know, citizenship like the US or like South Africa is intending to do in the near future. But by the simple fact of being a Caribbean national, you are not obliged.
Andres, it froze.
Cheers, mate. Sorry about that.
For your fourth or your fifth, whichever citizenships you hold, and that's it. Then, if you want to establish your residence in the Caribbean, you're more than free to do so. But being a citizen of the Caribbean doesn't mean that you are a tax resident of the Caribbean whatsoever. It means that you're a citizen, that you have your passport, and you can travel freely worldwide.
Excellent. Bruno, I have a question for you, actually, since it seems you've ran a lot of statistics and you have a lot of data as part of IMC. And one of the questions submitted was, is there any research done on how the benefits of CBI programs outweigh their disadvantages? Is there anything you recall along those lines?
Okay. I just, you know, before we address that, because I think we answered that a little bit, I just want to go back a sec to Malta and Cyprus, because there's some important comments made there. And I think just to clarify regarding the Malta program, there are no statistics, as far as I know, of the number of citizens that have been approved for the program, but the Maltese government have always been very vocal and have always said that in the first few years it will be capped at 1,800 applicants. And I think they've recently decided that they will extend that. I don't believe they've actually achieved 1,800 as yet. And then, you know, secondly, aside from that, it's always been about attracting not only investment, because often we talk about investment, but the modern programs or the future of these programs are really about attracting talent. And this has become ever more important with the ongoing negotiation between the European Union and the UK government regarding the terms of the Brexit deal. So attracting talent is creeping up the kind of the value chain. So we hear a lot more about attracting talent. And I think, you know, some of the conversations I've had with Cypriot professionals and government is that this is what it's about as well in Cyprus. It's about attracting talent and not simple transactional one-off transactions of a sale of a citizenship. And I think that's quite important. And then also, I think, you know, in what, you know, Vasiliki mentioned regarding the article that appeared last week, and I think really the Guardian have let themselves down. They've let their readers down, and you know they've they're riding on, what is essentially bashing of citizenship programs, and they've been deliberate in conflating separate issues. And they have misdirected readers in this case, because they've mentioned a number of people, and this happened also in the leak of the recipients of the citizenship program, that these people achieved citizenship before the program was built, and I think that's a big difference. So the Guardian, and a lot of the press, they do like to bash the programs, and I think a lot of the time actually it's unfair, and it's not, and it's very biased, and it's not what good journalism is about. So probably now I can go back to your question. Actually,
I meant to involve you in the previous question, but you stepped out, and then I transitioned to something else, so I got lost there.
I'm sorry about that. I had to step out. It was
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, back to the research question.
Yeah. Could you just repeat that maybe for the viewers as well as me?
Yeah, the question is there any research on how the benefits of CBI programs outweigh their disadvantages? I know it's a kind of vague question, but it was submitted to us, and I thought, since we have a few more minutes, I thought we'd include it.
Yeah, how research, and yeah, there is a little bit of research, that's out there. There's, the World Bank does some reporting on this. The IMF have created a unit, or at least a team, let's say, rather than a unit, to investigate the programs and the impacts that they have on various economies. But it's also very dependent on the program, and I mentioned this, a little bit earlier on. There are three types of inflows: the contributions to government, for registration of application fees, the non-refundable contributions that governments receive for their NDF, for example, and then the investments in the private or public sector. So generally, programs can consist of a single investment option or a combination of the two, and the benefits, generally far outweigh the disadvantages. They generally create employment in the construction industry, but in the professional services industry, these people also, need accommodation, tourist accommodation. They need to eat out in restaurants. So the overflow into the various sectors of the economy generally are quite important in this respect. So that's what I would have to say. So there is some data. We're working on some data, but there's still a lot of work needs to be done in this respect.
There are a lot of factors involved, I see. Right. Okay, we're reaching the end of the webinar, so I'm just going to ask you for some final concluding remarks, and then I'll say goodbye and get some admin issues out of the way and say goodbye. So Vasiliki, some concluding remarks on CBI programs in general, on the Cyprus program, etc.
CBI program is we can see the popularity of it recently, and especially for European and Caribbean jurisdictions. There are, I think, this is something that you cannot see how far he can go. It's a special opportunity for people, for investments, and for the jurisdiction who provide these programs. And I hope we will have, we continue to provide these services and have updated programs and provide these opportunities.
Thank you, Vasiliki. Bruno, any concluding remarks, Bruno?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just conclude with some comments on due diligence, because it is at the top of the agenda, the conversations that we are having with not only practitioners but with governments, and in some cases we do talk to prospective clients. And the reality today is that it is absolutely critical that program administrators conduct sufficient due diligence on the applicants to ensure that the applicant's motivation and source of funds are clearly understood. And this will be a key step in differentiating between a political refugee, a person seeking a legitimate tax benefit, or eventually, or possibly a terrorist or a money launderer. So clearly each category has a different implication for the country. So, if a country inadvertently grants citizenship to a terrorist or a money launderer or another criminal, then the reputational damage it's likely to suffer will definitely decrease the attractiveness of that program to other law-abiding investors. But there is a reputational risk for the country. And then also what's important in regards to due diligence, which is very much at the forefront of the movement, is that countries can also face consequences from institutions such as the United Nations or the FAT if evidence of due diligence that is requested and the country cannot provide it. But of course, this is an ongoing discussion that the industry needs to be aware of. We have a number of various papers and studies that we have published on our website, investmentmigration.org, and I would be happy to share any further thoughts, standards, and due diligence in the industry going forward. So thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful webinar. I hope your viewers got a lot out of it.
Thank you, Bruno. Andres, any concluding remarks before we wrap up?
Just a few, and agreeing with Bruno, what he was saying during the webinar. I mean, the CBI industry is a booming industry and needs to be regulated. The due diligence process it is of paramount importance, and it obviously not only starts with the particular countries with a strong due diligence that all the Caribbean programs do, but it starts with the agents, with the stakeholders, the advisors for each programs, to understand the client's motivations, to understand from where those monies are coming from, to understand, to see if there is any red flag that particular applicant can be triggered in the market. So at the end of the day, us that we are advising clients, we are the front line, and that is of very, very importance, because at the end of the day, the government does very strong due diligence once the application has been put forward, but at the same time, we are responsible of processing that application correctly and for understanding who our client is. So I think that those things they have to be in line too. So at the same time, we as advisors, the AMC and all the important entities that are regulating this market and are taking part in this market, we are protecting this market as well, and we are protecting each particular country that has a citizenship or a residence by investment scheme. That I think that is also of paramount importance. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, for words of Bruno, of Vasiliki and Laszlo. It was great hearing from you directly, and yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay. On behalf of TaxLink, I want to thank our panelists, Vasiliki, Bruno, Andres, and Laszlo, who had to step out. Some admin issues before we wrap up. This session has been recorded. We're going to have an audio recording available, hopefully next week. We're going to have a full transcript that we're going to share with all of our community. We're going to share with the panelists too, for you to feel free to use as you wish. So with that said, on behalf of TaxLink, Masha and myself, I want to thank you for participating, and hope you have a good rest of the week. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye. Bye.